3 counties, 24 cities, working together, accomplishing more than any of us could alone. Whether your roots run generations deep, or you recently moved to Greater Portland, you are a part of Metro, the nation's only regional government elected by the people. Planning for the future, preserving what we love. Let's keep our region thriving for decades to come.
I'm Laura Lepley, a Metro Park Ranger. Here at Oxbow Park, safety is our #1 priority, not only for our guests, but for our staff members. I'm at the Welcome Center and you're at the Regional Center. The council chambers are located on the 3rd floor. In the event of a fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room. Go down the stairway to the 2nd floor, exit through the main entrance by the reception desk and gather in the courtyard outside that entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the reception desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you, and come visit us at Oxbow Park.
All right, we'll declare a quorum and call the Metro Council business meeting to order. I will now ask our clerk, Georgia Langer, to call the roll for attendance.
Yes, Councillor Simpson?
Present, good morning.
Councillor Lewis?
Present.
Councillor Gonzalez?
Good morning, present.
Councillor Rosenthal?
Present.
Councillor Nolan should be joining shortly. Council President Peterson is excused, and Deputy Council President Wong.
Present, thank you. Okay, we'll do public communications. We'll open up for public communications on non-agenda items. Georgia, could you please describe to our audience how our procedures that we use for public communications? Thanks.
Absolutely. If you are testifying in person on non-agenda items, please sign up by filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me now. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call on your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist. You can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes and the timer begins when you begin speaking. If you are testifying in person, there are timers located at your testimony table, on the wall, and on the digital screen. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. And Deputy Council President Wong, I do not have anyone who has signed up to testify in advance on non-agenda items. I do see Natalie Swan has raised her hand. We do have them signed up for testimony on an agenda item. I can promote you to a panelist if you also have, okay, perfect. We have no one who has signed up to testify on non-agenda items.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Today we have one item, resolution number 26-5562 for the purpose of adding, amending, or canceling 7 projects to the 2024 to 27 MTIP to meet federal project delivery requirements. Is there a motion?
Move consent.
Second.
Okay, it is moved by Councilor Lewis, seconded by Councilor Simpson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the consent agenda passes unanimously. We'll move on to our resolutions. We'll start with resolution number 26-5561 for the purpose of approving the Willamette Cove Nature Park Master Plan. Colleagues, our next agenda item is resolution number 26-5561, marking the completion of the master planning phase and another major milestone for Willamette Cove in the future of the site as a nature park. This is a truly historic and exciting moment, one where we can both celebrate the work that has gotten us here and honor the commitments that we have made along the way. As we heard from staff in January, this achievement reflects an incredible collaboration with tribal nations, community members, and project partners who have contributed their time, knowledge, and commitment for more than 2 years. The Willamette Cove site is a powerful environmental justice opportunity, one that creates access to nature close to where people live and invests in communities that have historically had limited access to green spaces. This resolution takes us from vision to action. It's also important to recognize that this is not the end of our work, but it is an important step forward. With this resolution, we move closer to realizing a nature park that is inclusive, accessible, tribally and community rooted, and a refuge for fish and wildlife. I'd also like to enter into the record a letter of support Metro Council received from the Yakima Nation yesterday afternoon. The tribe supports adoption of the Willamette Cove Nature Park Master Plan and looks forward to continued collaboration with Metro on this project. The tribe is also encouraged to hear that the Metro Council will be seeking resolution on a funding strategy for this master plan on the March 12th, 2026 Metro Council council meeting. We'll now call up staff for their presentation. Today we have Andrew Scott, our Deputy COO and project sponsor, John Blasher, Director of Parks and Nature, and Jennifer Davanzo, staff, as a staff presenter. Welcome.
Davanzo, yeah.
Sorry, did I say that right?
It's okay.
Great. We're ready to go. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy President Wong. Andrew Scott, Deputy Chief Operating Officer, and I'll be brief and turn it over to folks who have been deeply involved in this work to tell you more about it. But I just wanted to frame a little bit as we start this conversation today. This moment is a long time coming. We're here today to recognize and celebrate this milestone, while also acknowledging the responsibility that comes with stewarding a nature park on the river. Metro has been actively taking care of Willamette Cove and will continue to actively take care of Willamette Cove through coordinated multi-agency action. We have a joint agreement, as most of you know, with the Port of Portland to clean up the upland portion of the site. And then the city of Portland and the state of Oregon are also working together to clean up the riverbed itself. Both of those actions are going to ensure that the Willamette Cove site is safe for people, plants, and wildlife into the future. Today, as Deputy President Wong noted, we're going to hear from our project manager, Jennifer. We're going to hear from tribal nations, as well as some community members about their experiences in the planning process. The coordination and collaboration with tribal governments, as well as with our community partners and state and federal agencies, directly shaped the plan that you're going to be voting on today. Today's a day to celebrate, and it's also a day to look forward. There's really important work ahead, including the next phases of design, engineering, and implementation. And I also want to acknowledge and recognize up front that challenges still remain. Some of those challenges, such as how to address the articulated concrete block cap that some of you may have seen on your site visits on the southern portion of the site, and other regional concerns that have been raised about harmful algal blooms that are a growing issue up and down the Willamette River. Metro is actively engaged in coordination and dialogue on these issues, and we're going to continue to look for ways to partner with community and other government agencies to find solutions. Despite those remaining challenges, today I want to make sure we recognize this milestone and the progress made in caring for Willamette Cove, creating a master plan to move this project forward. I'm now going to turn it over to Parks and Nature Director John Blasher, who's going to set the context and history of how we got here today. Thanks, John.
Go to the next slide, please. All right, Deputy Council President Wong and councilors, John Blasher, thank you for having us today. It's a really exciting moment. So I'll briefly discuss the Parks and Nature portfolio and Willamette Cove site context and some history and cultural significance of the site. Whenever the people of our region are asked what they most like about this place, they often say nature. People in our region know that to connect with nature, we need to make sure that nature has space to thrive. That's why they voted decade after decade to invest in nature. Metro has helped make this a reality across the region by protecting and restoring fish and wildlife habitat as the region grows, providing nature parks where people can gather and connect with nature, convening efforts to support an expanded regional trails network, and funding for nature projects at the neighborhood level. We now care for close to 20,000 acres across 34 developed sites and over 100 natural areas. Metro's Parks and Nature natural areas are open and accessible to the public with about a third of those acreage developed for formal park access and the remaining 2/3 maintained for habitat, first and foremost with informal access for people. When it comes to enhancing the portfolio of developed sites that are designed for easier human use, we look strategically at opportunities through various lenses like operational capacity, site value to community, commitments to ADA accessibility, tribal priorities, regional distribution, and context of other sites to identify those priorities for investment. The master plan for consideration today means realizing the vision for a Willamette Cove Nature Park and North Portland Willamette River Greenway Trail, while planning to make sure that we have the capital and operating funding to support that vision. Willamette Cove is a 27-acre site in St. John's neighborhood of Portland on the east banks of the Willamette River. It's approximately 7 miles downstream from the Metro Regional Center where we are, and just a bit upriver from Cathedral Park. It lies in the Portland Harbor Superfund cleanup area, which is the 11-mile stretch of the lower Willamette extending from Sauvie Island to the Fremont Bridge. Willamette Cove has over 3,000 feet of river shoreline. We anticipate primary access at Richmond Avenue and a secondary point at Edgewater, and of course the regional trail that will run through it alongside the railroad. For many people, this area holds strong personal, tribal, and community significance. In a landscape dominated by industry, it remains one of the few riverfront places where the public can reach the water for reflection, recreation, and connection. It's important that the access is safe and does not carry the risk of exposure to toxic substances or contamination. Next slide, please. So a little bit of history and background. The site was historically wetlands and floodplain, part of a river system that has been used by tribal communities since time immemorial. For tribes, the relationship with the Willamette River is cultural, spiritual, and deeply tied to identity and stewardship of natural resources. Over time, the land was filled and transformed by railroads and used for industrial uses, including shipping industry, commercial dry dock, barrel making, and lumbers, fundamentally altering the landscape. Metro purchased the property in 1996 and was one of the first acquisitions through the 1995 Open Spaces Bond Measure, with a long-term vision of restoring the site, restoring habitat, and returning it to public benefit with a regional trail as well. However, past industrial uses left contamination across much of the Willamette Cove site. As Andrew mentioned, Metro's been working in partnership with Port of Portland to assess and characterize contamination. We're participating in the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality's voluntary cleanup program and are currently at 30% of the remedial design. Work at the site from the top of the river bank into the river is regulated by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, with the City of Portland, Port of Portland, and the state of Oregon doing that work for the in-water. A series of Metro resolutions have been adopted and to guide the cleanup and park planning work of why we're here before you today. Resolution 20-5149, where Willamette Cove was formally included and considered for funding, in particular to the bond program for taking care of Metro parks. This resolution also supported the commitment to explore passive recreation and habitat restoration and to develop a meaningful engagement process. So this master planning effort was kicked off in fall of 2023, and we're excited to be here today to celebrate those efforts. A lot of great work has gone into this, and I'm going to pass it now to Jennifer to hear a lot more about the plan specifics and the priorities on habitat restoration, equitable access to nature close to home, and long-term care of public lands. Go to the next slide.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you, counselors, for having us back here again today. As John said, I'm Jennifer DeVanzo. I'm a landscape architect and a senior planner in the Parks and Nature Department in planning. And I am also the project manager for Willamette Cove Nature Park. The council's commitment to Willamette Cove made today possible, giving us the opportunity to present the final master plan for the nature park. Willamette Cove is about long-term care for people, plants, fish, and wildlife, and about designing and implementing the riverfront nature park. Today, I'm going to go through some of the materials that we shared on January 6th during the work session, with more emphasis on tribal and community input, and you'll hear from some of those voices today. Guided by Resolution 2051-49, staff developed a meaningful engagement plan and developed clear goals for the master plan that were used throughout the process. Those goals are to create a holistic vision for the nature park that provides habitat for fish and wildlife and passive recreation. Develop the master plan in coordination with tribal governments, Indigenous community members, people of color, people with disabilities, youth, conservation, and other community advocacy groups, neighbors, and Metro staff. Provide safe and accessible connections to the North Portland Greenway Trail, neighborhood connections, interior nature trails, and water access. Define areas for entry, parking, and gathering spaces, and create opportunities for cultural elements and education that highlight Indigenous connections to the land and the site histories. Next slide, please. You've seen this timeline several times along the way. As we reach conclusion of the master planning process, we reflect on more than 2 years of meaningful staff-to-staff consultation with tribes and engagement with community members and Metro staff. Over the next few slides, I'll recognize many partners who shaped this journey. Next slide, please. Before master planning, Metro, with Katie McDonald's guidance, initiated staff-to-staff tribal consultation with 6 tribes involved in the Portland Harbor Superfund site. The tribes include Confederated Tribes and Bands of the Yakama Nation, Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians, Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, Confederated Tribes of the Warm Springs Reservation of Oregon, and the Nez Perce Tribes. Willamette Cove is the first comprehensive project where Metro established a clear plan for tribal staff-to-staff consultation. From the beginning, it is also the first project where tribes collaborated directly with Metro on site conservation plan, helping set precedent for future site conservation planning at Metro. From the beginning, we established 3 commitments with tribes: to engage early and often, to work with tribes on a distinct component of the project, which was the site conservation plan, and to center their conservation goal as a high priority. Tribes made it clear from the beginning that clean water and healthy riparian habitats are a priority for salmonids and lamprey. Next slide, please. Based on Resolution 2051-49, a meaningful engagement strategy was produced. Since then, Corey Eldridge and his team have taken the strategy and produced a robust engagement plan and created a successful engagement process. Other organizations look to Willamette Cove's engagement process as a model for their own process. We've been connecting with many community members through avenues of engagement that include workshops, open houses, surveys, social media posts, Metro project page updates, newsletters, tabling at community events, and farmers markets. Next slide, please. Throughout the master planning, there has been close coordination with the in-water groups and the upland remediation design team that both John and Andrew mentioned. The Willamette Cove team has benefited greatly from Allison Clement's guidance on contamination, helping us better understand site conditions and stay aligned with the cleanup partners. Our team is grateful for the funding that has been secured for design, engineering, and permitting for the next fiscal year. It allows us to continue close coordination with cleanup teams while advancing the park plan, working efficiently, and refining the nature park design along their designs. As site conditions continue to evolve, sampling results continue to come in. With additional sampling planned later this year, the nature park will remain flexible and continue to move forward through close coordination with the cleanup partners. Next slide, please. So before you is the final master plan. Since I walked through all the elements in January and the full document is in your packets, I'm going to briefly highlight the plan and share some feedback that we heard. So there were 5 key main drivers for the plan: nature first, water access, community gathering, accessibility, and construction. and maintenance, construction cost and maintenance. So first, nature first. Nature is a priority at Willamette Cove. Recommendations from tribal governments, community, the science team, and council feedback consistently pointed to fewer trails, less programming, and more habitat, with clear message not to overcomplicate the plan. We listened to tribes and communities. We located amenities near the parking lot. This was preferred for elders and youth and allowed for much of the site to remain more in a natural state. Water access, connecting people to the Willamette River was essential during the planning process, whether for recreation or simply to be near the water. People often just want to hear the river, see it, and experience it. One survey comment came in that said, "This has taken 30 years of discussion, just start, clean sandy beaches and water." Community gathering. Tribes and community members emphasize the importance of being together in nature. Tribes appreciated there are options for places to gather for ceremonial purposes. As we move further into the design in the next phase, we'll continue to coordinate with the tribes on refining these gathering spaces. One community member said, "This space can become a place to gather, to experience the changing of the seasons, and to let children explore and roam." Accessibility. Willamette Cove should be a place everyone in the region can enjoy. Both tribes and community members asked for Nature Trail to remain separate from the regional trail to protect the experience for safety and for reducing user conflicts. Constructability, cost, and maintenance. The park's features should be achievable, budget-wise, and maintainable long into the future. Next slide, please. The master plan is part of a larger restoration story. Remediation will require all the existing vegetation and trees to be removed, which will look dramatic at first, but necessary for long-term safety, recovery, and healing. It is also a great learning opportunity for youth and education groups to see how a site is restored. Habitat restoration is central to bringing Willamette Cove back to life by connecting the land and river, restoring native ecosystems, and creating space for fish and wildlife to thrive, including habitats to support juvenile salmon. More broadly, Willamette Cove fits within a larger String of Pearls vision along the Willamette River focused on reconnecting fish and wildlife through habitat restoration. Restoration will follow the Willamette Cove Site Conservation Plan, focusing on shallow water habitat, oak madrone, woodland, and riparian forests. And as we continue along with restoration, we'll be sure that when the cleanup is done with the remediation, then restoration will follow smoothly. Next slide. So here's some conceptual renderings. These conceptual renderings reflect the intended character of the park as restoration, trails connections, water access, and gathering spaces come together. Next slide. So this timeline displays a progression from master planning to ribbon cutting for the nature park. Today represents a significant milestone in bringing the vision of the Willamette Cove Nature Park into reality. It is also important to underscore that the nature park development is dependent on the successful completion of the site cleanup. And next slide. So what's next? After today, we move into the next phase, which is design engineering and permitting. We anticipate releasing a request for qualifications this spring and starting that contract in July, that we can continue coordinating with cleanup partners while they're still designing. So you've heard a great deal from me today. And now I'd like to shift the focus to tribes and community members who've been instrumental to the master planning process and shaping this plan. I'll pass it back to Councilor Wong.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions before we move on to the public hearing for staff?
Let's be invited testimony first.
I will have questions or comments later, but I will wait for now.
Okay. We'll move on to the public hearing then. Thank you. We'll open up our public hearing for resolution number.
Invited testimony.
Oh, we haven't had the testimony.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there names?
Yes, there it is. Sorry. Yes. So we will open the public hearing for resolution number 26-5561 for the purpose of approving the Willamette Cove Nature Park Master Plan. We have 4 people invited here to provide invited testimony, and then we will open it up for additional testifiers. Georgia, could you please describe the procedures for providing testimony? No problem.
Okay. If you're testifying in person, please stand up and filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist, and you can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes, and the timer begins when you begin speaking. If you are testifying in person, their timer is located on your testimony table, on the wall, and on the digital screen. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. And then Councilor Wong, I believe we have 4 people who have invited.
Okay.
Invited testimony.
Well, thank you. We'll start with those 4 invited testimony. We have Natalie Swan, representing the Yakama Nation, Cassie Cohen from a Portland Harbor Coalition, Camilo Centeno from Growing Gardens, Anna Diana Johnson from the Committee on Disability. So if you want to come on up, or if you're online.
Let's start with Natalie first.
Okay. Yes, let's have Natalie. Is Natalie?
Yeah, I've promoted Natalie to a panelist.
Great, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sheikh Metro Council members, my name is Natalie Swan. I'm a member of the Yakama Nation. My given name is also Sawasaipum. My background is in biology. The Yakama Nation holds usual and accustomed treaty rights in the area of the Willamette Cove and has depended on the resources of this place since time immemorial. I speak today for both the people and the resource that cannot speak for themselves. We respectfully ask the Metro Council to adopt the Willamette Cove Nature Park Master Plan. Yakama Nation staff have actively engaged in the upland and in-water cleanup process, as well as the master plan development. We appreciate the Metro's efforts to prioritize tribal engagement and to work within a government-to-government framework. Willamette Cove is a critically important area for habitat connectivity between upland forests, riparian corridors, and the nearshore environment of the Willamette River. It serves as a key stepping stone along the corridor for ESA-listed and tribally important species. The Willamette River supports Chinook, coho, chum, sockeye, steelhead, bull trout, Yucalon, sturgeon, and Pacific lamprey. The cove and surrounding areas provide mitigation, rearing, foraging, and adult habitat for these species. These are treaty reserved resources central to our culture, subsistence, and identity. The site includes designated environmental conservation zoning and has been identified as a potential restoration area. It already contains important habitat features such as off-channel and nearshore areas, natural shoreline cover, mature riparian vegetation, and large woody debris. Protecting and enhancing these areas is essential for species recovery. Willamette Cove also provides rare access to the Willamette River for tribal members and broader community. With few river access points to the harbor, the site is valuable for gathering. Thoughtfully designed access and educational opportunity can cultivate long-term stewardship while protecting ecological functions. Adopting this master plan supports habitat protection, ensures no net loss, advances restoration, and aligns passive recreation with treaty reserved resources and species recovery efforts. The Yakama Nation supports adoption of the Willamette Cove Nature Park Master Plan and look forward to continued collaboration, including the funding strategy discussion on March 12th. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Natalie.
Okay. Next, we have Cassie Cohen.
Readjust. Good morning, council members. My name is Cassie Cohen. I'm the Executive Director of Portland Harbor Community Coalition, or PHCC. My family settled here on stolen Chinook and Multnomah lands in the 70s after several generations of escaping our unsafe homelands of Eastern Europe. I was born near Willamette Cove shortly after, actually. I'm grateful to the Willamette Cove team for inviting me to offer testimony today on Willamette Cove at this critical milestone to adopt its nature park master plan. For those who don't know, PHCC elevates the voices of communities most impacted in pollution in the Portland Harbor Superfund site to ensure that we benefit from and lead in the cleanup, restoration, and redevelopment of the harbor. Founded in 2012, PHCC is a diverse collective of dozens of core members from frontline communities and supportive advisory members who seek to redress harms and secure community benefits, including a safer, healthier river and riverfront for future generations. So it was actually in our early years from PHCC members, that PHCC members from Right to Survive and Right to Dream 2 began river walks, sometimes weekly, to engage with our unhoused neighbors and fishers along the Superfund site. This was our first introduction to Willamette Cove. Collecting stories and experiences, we became very concerned about the health and exposure to contaminants. From there, we began engaging with Metro, DEQ, EPA, Port of Portland. We ended up co-creating a Willamette Cove Train the Trainer program alongside Portland Harbor Community Advisory Group, or the CAG, and also the agencies. As early cleanup of highly contaminated spots in the cove started to occur. Our Train the Trainers program successfully trained BIPOC community leaders to become their own experts in all issues related to Willamette Cove, which allowed them, despite the onset of the COVID pandemic at that time, to host workshops and generate robust public comment for DEQ. Our work is possible because our collective ability to imagine beyond fear, beyond liability, to what a new reality could look like with a healed river and cove. I woke this morning actually feeling gratitude for our ancestors who helped us to shape that early vision for the cove, imagining beyond the existing boundaries of what seemed possible. Some folks we lost early in the houseless community over the years that were part of that early visioning. Also, as you all are well aware, Bob Salinger has been critical in this and many other Metro efforts. And also Otway Art McConville and Nez Perce Cayuse Elder, who was part of our leadership who sang a prayer-filled testimony to Metro Council back in the day when we had many folks testifying. And also former Metro Councilor Bob Stacy, who helped champion this project. So, and many more who are still with us today too. So we are also very grateful to Metro and the Port for leaning in and responding and feeling moved to imagine with us as we insisted on tribal consultation for Willamette Cove. And thank you again to Katie for doing such an incredible job consulting with the tribes and setting an example for what should be done for other areas along the river. Early alignment with the tribes allowed us also to build a stronger vision, community vision. When you finally heard us and offered early, robust, and meaningful community engagement, we felt good about that. And also thank you to Metro Council for unanimously supporting a higher level cleanup too, which serves as the foundation for building Willamette Cove future community safety rather than, thinking about like what's the bare minimum that we can do or how to just address the minimum risk, right? So it really supports communities feeling safer to come down there ultimately. Willamette Cove for years has been North Portlanders' best hope and opportunity for reintroducing native habitat and access to the river where it has been systematically erased since settler colonial industrialization times, starting with removal of the land from the original peoples and village and harvesting sites to the exploitation of labor from native Black immigrants and refugee workers to the redlining and forced displacement away from access to the river for cultural subsistence fishing. So we talked to grandfathers who no longer are able to teach their grandkids how to fish down there. And that's hard. But we thank you to the dedicated staff over the years and amazing contractors and subcontractors for carrying us to where we are today. So I encourage Metro leadership in the Port of Portland to continue to push the boundaries to manifest like an absolute gold standard nature park here for Willamette Cove, to seek additional creative funding opportunities to resource this nature and community sanctuary so that we can all be proud for generations to come, including things such as like bringing community leaders into the dialogue to help ensure the removal of the unsafe articulated concrete blocks that spill over the edge of the neighboring McCormick and Baxter site into the beach of Willamette Cove. So that's a huge priority for us. And then also working with PHCC and partners to co-create a community benefits and workforce tool for Willamette Cove for both the remediation phase as well as the redevelopment and construction phase that can also begin to kind of reverse discrimination for BIPOC workers and women workers in the trades and to set standards for livable wages too. So that's just, the tip of the iceberg, but I'm grateful and excited for this moment and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Camilo Centeno.
Okay, good morning to all of you. My name is Camilo Centeno, and I represent Growing Gardens. Growing Gardens is a nonprofit organization who helps people in the community to build gardens and cultivate their own food. I live on the North Portland area, and which is my neighborhood. I'm a coordinator for the North Portland area on Growing Gardens. And I've been on the Willamette Cove program since the beginning, since the first meeting that we had. And I'm happy to be here. I came here to Portland back in 1979. So, and my living area has been here, North Portland, most of it. And I'm part of the community. And having this park built for us, for the community, it's going to be a big step for all of us. It's not just for the North Portland community, it's for the whole Portland area. And everything is almost has been said. All what I will say is I wish just to be approved and think about ahead, like everybody's been saying, but think about the future, our kids. I'm a grandfather, and probably my grandkids, kids, they will enjoy the park because it's going to be a huge part of us using that space that we have that is empty right now, and we can put it in a good use for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our last invited testimony speaker today is Anna Deanna Johnson.
Excuse me. Good morning. I'm Anna Deanna Johnson. I have been in the Portland region most of my life. I grew up in Southeast and have lived in many locations around the area. I currently live out in Forest Grove. But I used to be a fully ambulatory person with a drove a sports car with a bike rack on the back and stuff as a computer professional. I loved to get out into nature whenever I could. The last 15 or so years, my health problems have taken a lot of those abilities away from me. And now I advocate for people who live with disabilities and older adults, because having gone from seeing things at this level to looking at them at this level, I see a lot of things which need to be changed, some of them only slightly, some of them majorly, but to allow all of us, everyone, to enjoy being able to get around independently, being able to go to the parks. I am friends with the person who has a nonprofit which goes out and does wheelchair hiking on a weekly basis. And being able to make things accessible and to have little things considered, like slightly wider pathways so I can talk with somebody while I'm traveling without having to yell behind me or in front of me, it makes it a lot more enjoyable. There's a lot of, well, actually, people might not be aware that more than 25% of our population lives with some kind of life-altering disability. And of those, 7% of our population are from 18 and under that live with life-altering disabilities. And so for everybody to be able to get out there and enjoy nature, and so I'm so pleased, I commend Metro for including people who live with disabilities in part of the planning before it's implemented, because doing so helps to prevent having to go back and add something in. And part of the effort that I bring is to help to avoid being said, oh, well, you know, that's not cost effective. We'll do something different, and maybe if we can find the funding, we'll add that in later. Sadly, I see too much of that. But, excuse me. And so removing barriers, you know, like someone such as myself, my chair runs out of power. Doing little things like including someplace where I can talk with a friend if I have to plug in and repower my chair just so that I can get back to where I get my ride home, often is something I have to think about in advance. And so planning for those sorts of slight differences, they're not very expensive in a lot of cases, but anyway, those are, I'm very grateful when those things are considered. Also, planning for nature changes, because around here, you know, it rains a little bit, and and pathways break down, and so building maintenance into the plan is something that is very important. And so again, I want to commend Metro for including people who live with disabilities as part of the planning, because the earlier we can help to bring this view into what's being considered, the less expensive it will be in the long run, and the more enjoyable it will be. And I look forward to seeing Willamette Cove and going down to visit it. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have a few folks who have signed up to testify as well. So I will first call up Doug Larson. You can sit at any of those and your time will begin when you begin speaking.
Good morning. I'm Doug Larson. I live in Cathedral Park neighborhood, which totally surrounds Willamette Cove, so what happens there affects us directly. I'd like to commend the staff for their proposal. I thoroughly encourage you to approve the resolution in front of you today. I have one caveat. I would like to add a float at the bottom of the kayak stairs at the bottom of Richmond Street so that kayakers can tie up and use the public bathroom that's going to be built. Kids can go down and hang out on the float. I know, I live in Cathedral Park, so I know when I walk down to Cathedral Park, the first thing I do is walk across the park and walk out onto the dock that is down at the foot of the hill. Being on the water, surrounded by the water, is different from being on the beach looking at it. The park would hugely benefit by giving people an opportunity to just be out and enveloped by the environment. At one time, Willamette Cove was one of the biggest shipyards in the country. They built and dismantled Liberty ships for World War II, and that's where most of the pollution that's being cleaned up now originated. But because it was a big shipyard, it'd be really easy to drive a couple steel piles to support a float at the bottom of the kayak stairs, so kayaks can load their gear from the side of the float. Kids can go down to the float. One of my long-standing issues is watching money for Portland taxpayers get spent outside of the city. In my role with the Portland Harbor Community Advisory Group, we've worked with the Portland Harbor Natural Resource Council, who did the original damage assessment for Superfund. And one of the first things they did is the money that the polluters owed to remediate the damage they're responsible for, they decided they could spend up to half of that money outside of the damaged area. So half of all that Resource Council money is being spent upriver outside of the Superfund where the damage happened. So the most recent Metro bond issue for $475 million is again doing the same thing, leaving us feel like a sacrifice zone. I did some back of the envelope calculations and took the 2024 census population numbers for each county and divided that into the 475 million. And I came up, for Portland, they contribute financially something like 260 million out of that 475. And the bond proposal gives 32 million to Portland Parks and Rec. And the Willamette Cove numbers that I saw in this resolution were 20 million. So out of Portland's $260 million contribution to the bond fund, they're getting roughly 50 million back. Portland's got a problem with being hollowed out. You drive out in the suburbs, everyone's got a new house and a newly paved road. Portland can't fix its potholes. They can't afford to give all that money away.
Thank you. Can you wrap up with a final point, please?
Sure. So my perspective is there's money in the budget to build a simple kayak float. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Sarah Taylor.
Hi, my name is Sarah Taylor. I live in North Portland, and my journey with Willamette Cove has taken me on many twists and turns. I was also principal and founder of the Sunnyside Environmental School. And I remember when Willamette Cove, you would go down there and it was still the old factories and everybody went down there to do their best graffiti. So it was like this trail through teen art life. So I remember that. I remember bushwhacking with Mike Hauk when you first bought it, like you're just bushwhacking down. And then I became very involved with the North Reach, with Superfund and all those things. But here's what I want you to know, that they've all said beautifully everything you need to know, but I applied for a Metro placemaking grant because I wanted to capture the history of that area. So I got that placemaking grant, and we did an artistic history of the area, and it's still at Lloyd Center in the old loft site. You can see the history of the area just from the windows, or Thursdays we are there and open it. But what I want you to know is I would love you to come and see that because it is the Willamette Cove history and it is a Metro grant. But what I want you to know is that from there, the Cove to the grant to being at Lloyd Center, I met thousands of people who do not go out to your nature parks. I meet people at Lloyd Center who use Lloyd Center as a place to walk. I never expected this, just to let you know, this is not what I expected. People who are elderly, people who need either a cool or a warm place to be, people in wheelchairs and with walkers, and with young children, people coming in from all the counties. It is a 1.5 mile accessible walking trail. I know I am a nature person. I'm surprised that I'm saying this to you. They are about to tear that down and put that in a landfill. And I'm here to tell you, many people have learned about the river and the Willamette Cove through our unexpected display. And I would encourage you, someone showed me something on my phone that said Metro was interested in a recycled shopping mall at some point. And I would just encourage one of you, you can call me, or to put a stop to tearing down Lloyd Center as an accessible urban walking trail for many, many people that could be used for workforce training, for actual houseless services, because right now, tear down, put in a landfill, and create market housing, not even affordable housing. So I know that's a long trail from Willamette Cove to what I'm seeing at Lloyd Center, but in my heart, they're connected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Scott Fogarty. I'm going to promote you as a panelist now. If anyone else would like to testify, please bring up a blue card or raise your hand. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Metro Council. My name is Scott Fogarty. I am the Executive Director with the Human Access Project. And Human Access Project has a mission of having Portlanders fall back in love with their river. And we feel this is a fantastic project that's been many, many years in the coming. And we are very grateful that Metro has undertaken this. I want to commend staff for their work on this project. We think it's fantastic that there is both restoration work going on in this Superfund site, as well as access to the river, which is what we promote up and down the Willamette River in the Portland metro area. However, we are concerned about the harmful algae blooms that have proliferated up and down the river as the temperature warms up, and these dangerous cyanobacteria affect both human health and animal health. There have been recorded pet deaths in the river, and folks have been rendered ill from the cyanobacteria. Oregon Health Authority has promoted, or not promoted, has posted non-swimming times in the last few years, and they continue to increase. So with that, it's fantastic that there are access points in Willamette Cove. However, if there is a non-healthy river to access, then I think it would do disservice to this entire plan. And so we have a history of looking at solutions to harmful algae bacteria, especially in the Ross Island Lagoon. We've worked closely with Oregon State University to develop some engineering concepts that we hope to implement in the near future. Willamette Cove is a unique spot because of the train tracks, and you can't open a channel. Water flow, hydrological flow is one of the solutions. So we've reached out to a couple of engineering firms to kind of have some ideas of off-the-shelf solutions. But again, this is a unique situation that we're in. So I would strongly encourage the council to look at harmful algae blooms and be proactive about it, because it would be horrible to have this park go in and then to have this situation occur where people cannot actually access the water. Our ringleader, Willie Levinson, has kind of been leading up this charge over the past few years, especially at Ross Island. He's out of town right now, so but he sends his regards to everybody. And we, again, have a history of working in this project, or in this issue, and would love to work with Metro Council going forward. Thanks so much for your time and efforts.
Thank you.
All right, I do not see any other hands raised in the virtual audience. I have no more blue cards.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. And thanks for all the testimony. Seeing no further comments, we'll close the public hearing. And we'll move on to questions or discussion. Councilors. Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. A couple things. First of all, I want to echo the comments made for Bob Salinger's strong advocacy for this group, and then particularly for former council member Bob Stacy, who made it sure that we allocated the affordable monies necessary to proceed with the study. I think staff has been proactive and done a great job and a great outreach to both the communities as well as to the tribes. But he alerted us to the fact that we needed to set aside the monies for the additional investigation. And so we are reaching at this point. You know, I wish it had taken a year or two less, but it's a complicated process. A comment on the algae. We are also concerned about the algae issues. I have had friends whose dog has died because of algae ingestion. It can be very critical and very painful and difficult. And because we have water access, it's something that we're going to have to be concerned with. We don't really control the river, and as is known, our jurisdiction stops at the water line. However, my thought might be that we might have to have more than just signs. We may have to look in the future if these things continue to get both more frequent and worse, And because of the nature of the lagoon itself, because of it's a slow water area, sort of a stagnant area, we may have to have some sort of physical restrictions to just keep people and their pets out of the water at this during certain critical things. And we may have to assist in the monitoring if it's not adequately done by the DEQ. So that's something that we have to pay attention to. Then I want to make one little comment. We have a resolution here, and technically it refers to the comprehensive plan as Exhibit A, but in fact it is Attachment 3. So there's a technical glitch. Normally, I would have made a motion to correct this slight misapprehension, but I've learned my lesson, and I will not make that motion. I'll just note that it should be corrected in context. And finally, I do want to ask a question that, because it's outside of our jurisdiction, is because the park is accessible from bus stops nearby, but through city streets, I'm not clear that those streets have complete and safe ADA access, and do we have a comprehensive plan for ensuring that this access from these bus stops is maintained now and in the future? And I assume it's Portland streets, but it's not my neighborhood, so I don't walk those areas, so I'm just curious about that.
Have staff come back up.
Thank you, Councilor Rosenthal. Councilors, again, John Blasher. Yes, your question about the access through the city streets, that is up to the city of Portland. And as we go through and do the development for the nature park, we'll continue to have those conversations we can with PBOT and others. This is something that we don't have as many urban nature parks. And so this is something new for us to consider of how do we support with some of your support too, and talking with your colleagues, and we can talk with our colleagues to make sure that folks will be able to not only come and park there or ride their bikes or kayak up, but also take that public transportation. So as we go through and get further along with design, engineering, permitting, and all those things, we can also make sure to be in touch with PBOT and where they are with any of their road maintenance, which I know they've got their own challenges and struggles, but also the bus stops and things through TriMet.
I just hope that we do what we can to continue that work and make sure that the park, now that we're going to eventually have a nice park with nice accessible walkways, that we tie them into the local transportation network as well as possible, even though it's not our responsibility.
Thank you.
Councilor Nolan.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I want to lift up the people who have come to testify in support of this proposed plan, not just for being with us today as we consider this resolution, but also for being with us throughout this process. Our tribal partners in consultation with us, advocates for health and safety, advocates for access to the space. The work represents input and collaboration among all those interests. And it's important for me to reflect that the people who've helped guide this, our own staff, professional experts as they are, and our community volunteers, have recognized that there are constraints, both physically, hydrologically, and budget. Having said that, I want to highlight that this is truly a unique regional resource. On the east side of the river, very little access within the entire city of Portland for humans to be in contact with, be surrounded by the experience of the river. And we should do what it takes to create a space that will be a value, an asset for the community, not just the neighborhood, but the entire region for generations to come. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Gonzalez.
Thanks, Deputy President Wong.
Well, first, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to folks that came to give testimony today, and especially to our folks that came to give invited testimony. Your remarks really touched my heart, and I think highlighted the really great commitments that Metro tried to make, not only through the design of this process, but hopefully in the impacts that we strive to make, from disability to community engagement to some really great work on tribal consultation. And I think trying to do parks and nature and conservation and remediation work in a new way that I think reflects the values of our great city and this great region. And so I just feel tremendously grateful for that work. And like some other of my peers have shared, and I know will be shared shortly, this is truly such a special site on the Willamette River, and for the generations of Portlanders and Oregonians that will have the opportunity to enjoy it, it's just really special to me. So I feel very proud. It's been years and years and years of work, and I know for the community, Cassie, you've been working on this for much longer than me, so and others as well. I do want to ask a question to John around the algae blooms, because it has been an issue that we've tracked not just on the Willamette, but multiple parks and sites. And can you just speak broadly to what Metro's approach, one in operations when we are actively dealing with harmful sites at our different nature parks, but also how we've incorporated the kind of cool water strategy into our portfolio historically, and how we're trying to adapt and manage, given, we're trying to do as much as we can with the resources we have. Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Gonzalez. To my knowledge, the only site that we've dealt with these algae blooms outside of Willamette Cove is Blue Lake. Blue Lake is unique in that it is sort of enclosed lake that doesn't have natural sort of flow through it. It's more of a large seasonal not pond, but it's a large waterway. So we do regular monitoring that we start during the busy season. So we have that regular monitoring at Blue Lake so that we can stay ahead of things and make those advisories in terms of water quality when they pop up. So we've got that over the years in partnership with DSL and DEQ, OHA, and the neighborhood association across the way from the river. We've tried things like bubblers to try to get more aeration. But we've also found that actually stirs up more of the bits and bobs that can create and contribute to that warmer water and sort of the algae blooms. So we actually did a study to look at some different options at Blue Lake, including things that are mechanical or chemical that could look to address it. So we're in some conversations about what to do at Blue Lake. So when it comes to Willamette Cove, since the site has been and is still closed because it's not safe till it's done with the cleanup, we've just followed the monitoring pieces and posted those notifications. But in the master plan, we talk about the need to continue monitoring and looking at those potential harmful algae blooms. And so along with monitoring, we're also interested in working with the rest of the partners in what is the larger Willamette River solution and plan, especially knowing that starting with Ross Island Lagoon is probably it is noted as one of the primary contributors. So where are we literally working upstream first and foremost? And as we continue to make those partnership investments there and understand, then we'll be able to have a better sense and plan for what we will do at Willamette Cove.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not a hydrologist, and I know Councilor Rosenthal knows a lot about water as well. So maybe I should give you the opportunity to ask further questions.
Algae is not my specialty.
Thanks, Sean. In terms of how we respond to the specifics, can you also just more historically to the creation of Metro's open space bond measure and kind of the history of our working clean water and kind of working upstream in the headwaters and specifically how we attempt to remediate not just in the moment but ecosystems. Can you talk about that? And feel free to bring up people on your team as well.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you, Councilor. Yeah, a lot of our work is in upstream in the headwaters providing cool, clean water that can flow through the systems. That's one of the ways that we are able to support and contribute to the Willamette River is the work that we've done in the Tualatin and Clackamas River, being able to also supporting some of the streams that flow into those. And so making sure that we have healthy riparian areas, making sure that we're putting in different woody structures and things like that that can help manage water flow and any of the contaminants and sediment. So that's a lot of what the work is that we do, not just ourselves, but in partnership with other groups and organizations. So it is really about those clean waters that are flowing into the larger systems. And so that's where the most impactful work that we've been able to do across the region and will continue to do.
Thanks, John. I'll just end by saying that I feel like over the last 5 years, we've really wrestled with how do we want to define access, just broadly speaking, with as it relates to all of our investments. And I see this as just like an extraordinary reflection of access in so many different ways that I feel very proud of. And I'm sure that there's much more that we can do to continue to improve and to serve more and more people. I don't want to list out all the ways that I see access, but I think we're kind of alluding to those in terms of consultation, process, design, the actual size of the trail, what it means to access them from a bus stop. I mean, I think what we want to do is build a world-class system and park system here in this region, and I feel like really proud of the work that you and your team are doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Back to you, Deputy President.
Thank you. Councilor Lewis.
Thank you. I want to first really thank the folks from the community who have stewarded this process and been part of coalition and community gatherings, working with Metro staff, obviously, but ideating what this place can be. It was great to be on site with Legos and kids, really kind of getting into the literal weeds of how the space can take shape and reimagine the shape that it's actually in. My hope is that we continue to dream big and that this plan moves forward in entirety, and it's not something that comes to the bottom of a funding list, but it's a top priority for us. As I think through our next steps, obviously we have a funding proposal ahead of us in a week. To that conversation with respect to harmful algae blooms, I plan to bring a proposal to fund study so that not only are we holistically approaching from Sauvie Island to the Columbia, but also potential design options that might influence articulation of more fine points on this project. But we'll have that discussion next week. I just want to put it on record that I fully support the comments of Councilor Gonzalez, community on HABs, and would like to see us with a separate funding proposal for being smart on that. Really want to lift up kind of where this conversation started today with the work that's been done engaging our tribal partners for whom this access is not something that they envision as a privilege or as an amenity, but is absolutely a right. And the work that we've done in this agency to get better about not only asking for design advice, but real consultation that is beyond design and into use and meaning and feeling and relationship. So thank you for folks who have led that. And then lastly, I fully endorse the proposal as presented today, but did want to lift up the question that was brought around the kayak float. It has not been unevaluated. So if we could just get that thumbnail version about why the choice was made not to go there. We've heard about it before, but for the record today.
The reason why we removed the dock and was mainly to do with the repair, maintenance, and then potential in the future replacement, and then having to open up the rod again and having to do a work plan, and then the whole process of like how we remove that dock or any maintenance and then remove any soil. So it's all the cost and maintenance that we would do anyway, but then on top of all that, another whole remediation process with that. So in that, and then also we talked about erosion and then destabilization for any remedy that's in place. So those are the main reasons why the dock was removed from the plan.
Thank you. Yeah, I think maintenance is of real concern, and use is important. That erosion concern, though, I just really want to underscore is kind of why I feel like the decision is the right one, particularly looking at dock discussions down or up river in my district. The way that the river moves with and without a dock is so different. Really want to respect the natural flow there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Simpson?
My colleagues hit on most of, thank you, Deputy Council President Wong. My colleagues hit on really a lot of the topics, but I want to thank your comments. I'm a veteran, 100% disabled veteran. And so for you to uplift and talk about the need for folks to have access and to be able to recreate despite their ability like that, I really mean thank you so much, and continue to advocate for folks like us in the community. So that's all I had. And also, I'm fully supportive of this, not just from the standpoint of Metro, but like the work that Bob Sullinger and Bob Stacy put into this, and honoring their legacies, but also honoring the communities, the indigenous communities, who not only put in the time and effort to make sure that we were well informed around this project, but also just the care. And I know where that care comes from, so I'm gonna take the moment to thank Katie McDonald. Thank you so much for making sure that we are held to account in that space, so thank you. That's all I got.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, seeing no further discussion, I do think we have here we go. We do have amendment we'll have to make. Thank you, Councilor Rosenthal. So first, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve resolution 26-5561 with the correction to a reference exhibit, replacing Exhibit A with attachments 3 and 3A to the staff report. So, good eye. Is there a motion?
I will second it as long as the amendment is attributed to Councilor Rosenthal.
I have to vote against it.
I'll move. I'll move and.
Okay, well,
I'm not going to vote against
the resolution as amended is moved by Councilor Nolan and seconded by
me.
Councilor Gonzalez. And Georgia, can you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Councilor Nolan?
Yes.
Councilor Rosenthal?
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez?
Aye.
Councilor Lewis? Aye. Councilor Simpson?
Aye.
Deputy Council President Wong?
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Well, let's take a moment. Thank you all. And I want to thank everyone for coming in and helping us reach this important milestone. The work is really just beginning. We'll have our conversation about how we're going to fund this next week. So looking forward to that conversation. Oh, do we want to do a photo? Sure, let's do a photo. It's a milestone. We'll do a photo. For all our guests, if you would like to join us for a photo, we'll just meet up right here.
Let's do it. Photo time. Also, did we really talk about the exhibit out there, which is dope?
return to business.
Okay, oh yeah, here, you want to know that? See, he didn't want it the
Okay.
You have to take it, Councilor.
Isn't there like a
Oh, you got a gavel.
Councilor Gonzalez?
Really big for that guy.
Thank you.
My chair was so low, and when we first started, I was so mad. I was like, why do I look like I'm 4 foot nothing?
There's one of these chairs that his arms are like so quick to do.
Yeah.
Like every chair has its own little personality.
But they're
All right.
I figured out that this little knob, you can just
We're going to move up to our next agenda item.
You just got to stand up. Yeah. I was just like sitting here. I felt like I was in the 5th grade again.
We're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is, okay.
If folks could please move into the hallway so we can continue, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, on to our next exciting topic, the first reading and public hearing for ordinance number 26-1536, ordinance number 26-1537, and ordinance number 26-1538. So yes, these are the public hearings for ordinance number 26-1536 for the purpose of amending the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan to include the locally preferred alternative for the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. Also ordinance number 26-1537 for the purpose of amending the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan to include the locally preferred alternative for the Tualatin Valley Highway Transit and Safety Project, and also ordinance number 26-1538 for purpose of amending the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan to include the locally preferred alternative for the Montgomery Park streetcar extension. So the Regional Transportation Plan, or RTP, is a state and federally required long-term transportation plan for the Portland metropolitan area that guides planning and investment for all forms of travel, motor vehicle, transit, biking, and walking, and the movement of goods and freight. This summer, the Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation and the Metro Council endorsed the locally preferred alternatives for the 82nd Avenue Transit Project, TV Highway Transit and Safety Project, and Montgomery Park Streetcar Extension. Metro and regional partners have made significant progress on these and are ready to take the next step in pursuing key federal funding opportunities. To do that, the LPAs need to be incorporated into the RTP, which is what these ordinances would do. Metro Council already received an introduction with the first public hearing on the ordinances this past December. We will have a quick review from our staff, and then we will open the public hearing. There will be one public hearing for all 3 ordinances. So I'd like to welcome Ally Holmquist, Senior Transportation Planner, for that quick update.
Thank you very much, and I will be as quick as possible. There are just a couple things I wanted to mention for the record and for any members of the community that are here. We have made it to the next milestone in the amendment process. Most of the materials in your packet are the same as what you saw in December with the addition of that ordinance language. And Deputy Council President already mentioned the prior endorsements of the locally preferred alternatives. I did just want to mention again that there are no changes to those proposed in the amendments before you today. What we have brought before you today implements those prior endorsements. But of course, again, state law requires us to go through the formal legislative process. Next slide, please. What the proposed amendments will do is they will make changes to all of these different sections of the Regional Transportation Plan you see on the screen here, really just to update the maps, the descriptions of the projects, the costs where applicable, and the revenue considerations that were assumed where applicable, just to make sure that we've updated those based on the latest information in those locally preferred alternatives. Next slide, please. When we last came to you in December, that was during the 45-day public comment period that was held on the proposed amendments. I did just want to mention that there was only one comment that was received during that period, and that was the one that we heard at the last hearing. It was in opposition to the transit priority lanes on 82nd Avenue. Transit priority on 82nd Avenue is something that has been discussed as part of the next phase of project development. The endorsed locally preferred alternative and the proposed amendments to the original transportation plan focus on the route, termini, and general station locations and do not include level of detail on things like transit priority. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to quickly mention the next steps. We did shave off several months off of the timeline based on council direction. And so later this month, we will bring the proposed amendments to MTAC for their first reading, and then to MPAC, TPAC, and JPAC in April before they come back to you for second reading on April 23rd. And next slide, please. Just a shout out to our other Metro staff partners and TriMet and PBOT partners that have helped us with these proposed amendments along the way. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay, thank you. Councilors, any questions before we move into a public hearing? Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you so much, Ali. Really appreciate what is happening here is that we are cementing years worth of work. I am curious for the 82nd Avenue. I think we're working on really nailing the budget, plus or minus $8 million. Is the budget update for 82nd Avenue reflective of the most sunny, rosy disposition of full bat lanes?
I'm actually going to phone a friend and ask Melissa to come up.
I think this is working. Okay. So we put together this amendment before kind of the other conversations were landed around bat lanes, and there are some ongoing conversations about funding as well. So it doesn't reflect a budget that I think that it's around like a $350 million budget. It doesn't reflect that. I think there is a little bit of wiggle room in this process where with any project that's in the RTP, you give your best estimate. That's what's amended in. So I would say it's because this happened before, it's a bit separate from that, but we think we still have adequate flexibility to continue on with the process in other ways.
Wonderful. So just for the record, just in case anybody's ever looking at this, just because we're voting on this today does not mean that I personally, with my vote, would want to see less than the budget that's the most current budget out of TriMet as of 2 or 3 weeks ago. So that's just me for the record today.
We're not voting today, are we?
Thank you. Okay, we'll open up a public hearing for these ordinances. Georgia, can you please describe the procedures for providing testimony for those wishing to testify on these 3 items?
Yes. If you are testifying in person on ordinance number 261536, 261537, and or 261538, now is the time to do so, as well as online. If you are in person, please sign up by filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus, or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call on your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist, and you can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes, and the timer begins when you begin speaking. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. And Deputy Council President Wong, I do not see anyone in the audience, and I also do not see any hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, well, seeing no further comments, we'll close the public hearing. Council is scheduled to consider formal action on these ordinances in April. Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move on to COO Communications.
Thank you, Deputy Council President Wong. I don't have any updates today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Communications. All right.
I'll do a quick one. Just want to let folks of the public know that we have a Future Vision Artist Residency happening at Metro, which we very much invite folks to participate. For folks that don't know what Future Vision is, it is required by our charter at Metro to generate a 50-year vision for this region. And this is the first time that we do that in quite a while. We have convened a series of artists to help us tell a story through different mediums and modes about what the future holds for us, what it means for us, and how we want to try and manifest that for this generation and for generations to come. So we have a series of exhibits and opportunities here at Metro Regional Center, and we really hope that folks are able to participate and lend their voice to the future of the Portland region. Also on Monday, I know Councilor Rosenthal were able to make it to Beaverton State of the City and watch Mayor Beatty and the Beaverton City Council provide an update on Beaverton and the work that they're doing to work on affordability, economy, a whole bunch of good things. And it was very, very nice to be able to be there and support our regional partners. Thanks.
Okay. Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Well, just a comment on Beaverton. They made very clear that they're very much supportive of small businesses and reminded me that I don't spend enough time eating in cafes in Beaverton, but that's another matter. I just want to report the WEA Westside Economic Alliance had a meeting today, and the county made a presentation that their costs for maintenance of the county road system, particularly in Washington County, is rising a lot faster than the property limitations of 3% per year in terms of property assessments. So they're looking at alternative methods for raising some money for maintenance of the highways. Now, it goes, I think, 60% to the cities and 40% to the county, but they maintain a lot of roads. Their main thing that they're looking at this point in time, and this is of interesting importance considering transportation funding is a big debate at the state legislature. The method they're using, thinking of using primarily might be, but this is not final, but would be registration fees. The county has its own registration fees as allowed by state law.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, seeing no further discussion, the council meeting is adjourned. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for March 10th at 10:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.